The retired four-star admiral, once the #2 officer in the Navy, arrested on bribery charges.
But this morning, Admiral Robert Burke was arrested at his home in Florida on bribery charges.
What are you doing? What are you doing?
Nothing. Me? Just hanging around.
Very rarely on this channel do we talk about true justice coming to fruition, and that is especially true with upper ranks, as a lot of people feel it's unfair as through the ranks certain people get treated a certain way and they get off, versus people in lower ranks are able to continue just getting screwed over, is what a lot of people will say the overarching theme is. But I covered this a long time ago, but we now have some closure. That's because the former Vice Chief of Naval Operations, Robert Burke, was sentenced to 6 years in prison following bribery conviction. 6 years, and you're the #2 in command of the entire U.S. Navy?
Shane, if you ain't first, you're last. You know what I'm talking about? That phrase is trademark, not to use that position to Ricky Bobby.
You think people wouldn't have their eyeballs on you? Apparently they did, and apparently the judge took this very seriously. The U.S. Naval Institute says former Vice Chief of Naval Operations Admiral Robert Burke was sentenced to serve 6 years in prison for his role in what prosecutors said was a bribery scheme in exchange for a post-retirement job. U.S. District Judge Trevor McFadden handed down the sentence Tuesday to the retired four-star admiral following a May trial during which Burke was convicted of a count of each of bribery, conspiracy to commit bribery, affecting personal financial interests, and false official statement. Burke was also sentenced to 3 years of supervised release, according to the Department of Justice. So count those suckers up. We're talking about 9 years. He is going to be on the scope, on the radar for what he did. And I have to say, a lot of people know that the Admiral game is quite political, and a lot of who you know, how you know, whose hand you shake, whose baby you kiss. So I don't know if he pissed off the wrong person, or somebody wanted to blow the whistle and essentially get him in trouble, or knew about it or heard about it, because I'll tell you what, this is not the first or last time. We've heard about this with the Fat Leonard case, where contracts were being dealt out to specific people under Fat Leonard, and they were getting kickbacks between parties, alcohol, women. It was insane, and that trial went on forever. They say over the course of the 5-day trial, prosecutors argued Burke used his position with the Navy to route contracts to Next Jump, a company offering workforce training programs in 2020 and 2021 in exchange for a position at the company after his retirement. Now, to give some heads up, if somebody did this and they were bribed while they were in their official capacity to offer contracts or whatever, these are fraud, waste, and abuse, which are very serious. And the Department of Defense has a huge whole list of ethics. And using your public office as an admiral, the Vice Chief of Naval Operations, second in command, means you got a lot of power. You can influence people to make certain decisions. And whether that pressure was warranted or not, I don't know how that would be the case. We all know that there are a lot of admirals and generals and top-ranking officers that go and work for defense contract companies, and that is their strategy because they worked around near people that were probably leaders or allowing those things. However, it is very clear that you cannot have any hands in the pot of contracts that are warranted, which is why most people, when they go and work for these places or have a job offer, they say, hey, DOD, can you look at my offer here? Is there anything that you might see that's ethically or legally wrong before I actually take this job? That way I don't end up in federal prison? That's the status quo, to be honest with you. But it seems like Admiral Robert Burke here did not do that. It says, according to the Justice Department, Burke ordered his staff to award $355,000 contract to Next Jump in December 2021 to train personnel under Burke's command in Italy and Spain while he served as the commander of U.S. Naval Forces Europe and Africa. Next Jump performed the training in January 2022. Afterwards, Burke attempted but failed to convince another senior Navy admiral to award another contract to Next Jump, according to the Justice Department's news release. I wonder if this was like a, hey, dude, I got a little inside job here. You award this contract, I'll get you some money. I wonder if that's part of this, because they don't go into details of that. I'd love to hear how much was being exchanged for this, because in the world of Department of Defense, when you're talking about billions of dollars every year awarded or allotted to defense, $355,000 is not much, especially for somebody that is a vice CNO. So I'm curious. They say, according to the Justice Department, Burke made several false and misleading statements to the Navy, implying that employment discussions between NextJump and Burke only began after December 2021 contract was awarded. This statement, the Justice Department said, was an omission of the truth, as Burke had met with the NextJump co-CEOs around 5 months before in July 2021, where they discussed his post-retirement employment opportunities. Ultimately, Burke went on to work for NextJump in October 2022 at a yearly starting salary of $500,000 and a grant of $100,000 stock options, according to the Department of Justice. He left the company after a few months in early 2023. All this for only a few months. Let's be honest. It was probably less than $175,000 if it was a few months. To ruin your entire legacy and career over this? Like, if I know somebody was a vice CNO, you probably could get a job close to what this is without all the legal hassle. Like, you've already made the retirement that, like, nobody else gets to make. Just to give you perspective of this person that was so eager to make this money, according to the military pay chart, he was going to make $18,808.20 as an admiral already in base pay. Didn't include housing allowance or food or any of that stuff or special pays or whatever. But on top of that, he would have retired and gotten $9,000. Plus, if you got disability 100%, you served like 40 years or close to it, you're probably going to get 100%. So that's probably at least another couple $4,200, $4,300 on top of that. And I've done the calculations. If you put those two together, and I'm assuming he has some dependents or a kid or whatever, you get more if you have more kids for disability. But he would have been making if he had even two kids, it would have been like $163,000 a year on top of a $500,000 a year program. I'm like, what level of need does any human have for that much money? Like, is greed just all that there is? Burke's attorney contended the jury was presented with incomplete evidence that would prove his innocence. It says, we're disappointed in the sentence and we intend to move very quickly on appeal. Burke's attorney, Tim Parlatore, told USNI News on Tuesday, this is a case that should not have gone this way. I respectfully disagree with the judge's decision to prevent the jury from hearing all the evidence. He says NextJump chief executives Megan Messenger and Young Chul Charlie Kim were also charged. The three were originally to be tried together until Messenger and Kim motioned to be tried separately from Burke. A separate trial for Kim and Messenger ended in mistrial on September 8th. Parlatore said the jury at that trial had access to more evidence that would have helped Burke's case. So yes, I understand what is admissible in court, whatever else. This is showing some stuff to that. But in today, making this video, this person is found guilty and by a jury of their peers has their day in court. Now, obviously, if this changes and there's more information that comes out, I will correct the narrative of this video or make a new one to update that because I think that is fair and I believe the judicial system has to play out. If he does get that, cool. Now, I don't know the legality of this, of somebody being able to be tried for crimes while they were in service after, if that could affect retirements or whatever else retroactively. I don't know that, but he's still going to keep his retirement. He's going to be in jail, still making $163,000 a year, not seeing his family, obviously, but he will have more than enough money for the canteen. But what do you think about this situation as we've seen some of this unfold with other admirals at the Fat Leonard case?